Hello and welcome to God's Minute. I'm Pastor Jonathan Conrad, and I am the senior pastor at St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Wilmington, North Carolina. This week, we continue our look at the book of Daniel, and today we are looking at chapter 7. Chapters 7 through 12 is what we considered Daniel Part 2, and the attention shifts from stories to visions, and you'll get that when you read these chapters along with me this week. Daniel 7 through 12 is what we call apocalyptic literature. Now, when we think of apocalypse, we think of the worst of times. We think of the end times. We think of the Christian novel series Left Behind. But apocalyptic literature in the Bible served a very specific purpose. It was not to scare people into faith, but it was to give them hope. And I'll show you an example of that today in our reading. So let's get to that reading today from Daniel chapter 7. In the first year of King Belshazzar of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head as he lay in bed. Then he wrote down the dream. I, Daniel, saw in my vision by night the four winds of heaven stirring up the great sea, and four great beasts came up out of the sea, different from one another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. Then, as I watched, its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a human being, and a human mind was given to it. Another beast appeared, a second one, that looked like a bear. It was raised up on one side, had 3 tusks in its mouth among its teeth, and was told, Arise, devour many bodies. After this, as I watched, another appeared, like a leopard. The beast had 4 wings of a bird on its back, and 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this, I saw in the visions by night a fourth beast, terrifying and dreadful and exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth and was devouring, breaking in pieces, and stamping what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that preceded it, and it had 10 horns. I was considering the horns when another horn appeared, a little one coming up among them, to make room for it. 3 of the earlier horns were plucked up by the roots. There were eyes like human eyes in this horn, and a mouth speaking arrogantly. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was troubled within me, and the visions of my head terrified me. I approached one of the attendants to ask him the truth concerning all this. So he said that he would disclose to me the interpretation of the matter. As for these 4 great beasts, 4 kings shall arise out of the earth. But the holy ones of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, forever and ever. So that's an example of apocalyptic literature giving people hope. Notice in verses 15 through 18, it ends with the mighty one winning and the reign of the mighty one lasting forever and ever. So please keep that in mind as we look at these visions throughout the week in this study of Daniel. I'm going to talk about the 4 beasts that we hear about in our reading today. And I'm going to do that by showing you this awesome picture by an artist named Nathan M. Rosario. The 4 great beasts are the world kingdoms at that time. The first beast is Babylon. Now, you may remember earlier in Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar transforms into a beast and back again in chapter 4. So there's the lion. Its eagle's wings is a symbol of military speed and power. The second beast is Media, and the 3 tusks meant that this was a predatory empire. The third kingdom is Persia. The leopard refers to the devastating power of a leopard and other wild animals like the bear and the lion. The 4 wings are reference to Persia's speed at wide-ranging military conquests. Now my favorite, the fourth beast. I just love how it looms in the back and it looks so gigantic as compared to the 3 other beasts. The fourth represents Greece, specifically Alexander the Great. So these are the 4 kingdoms that Daniel is talking about in his visions. But here is what I wanted to talk about today. This chapter opens up with Daniel having a vision, a dream, and he immediately writes it down. But what really struck me as I was reading this is this idea of writing things down. For a long time, I had trouble going to sleep at night because I had so much on my mind. And I realized I was losing valuable sleep. I was losing valuable rest time and downtime. So what I started to do was when I knew that my mind was racing, I would write whatever was on my mind and it cleared my head. And I was able to fall asleep much quicker than I used to. And since then, I've had no trouble sleeping at night because I clear my head. If you feel like you are not getting enough sleep at night, if you feel like you are worrying or you have a lot on your mind, write it down, record it some way, get it out of your head. And I promise you, when you have a clear head, you can go to sleep a lot easier. And then in the morning, if you have a fantastic dream or you have a dream that disturbs you and you don't want to forget it, make sure you have that journal right beside you and write it down, because that's what Daniel did. And I think that's a very good example for all of us. Write down what's in your head, and you can use that as a tool to clear your mind or to remember something you don't want to forget. For Daniel, he did not want to forget what these visions were because he wanted to share them with the people to offer them hope. And this goes back to the idea of apocalyptic literature. Sure, the visions may be scary, but the end is certain. The end is with God as the victor. Thank you for joining me today. I will see you tomorrow for another edition of God's Minute. You take care and God bless.